So, if you were here previously, you know my name's Casper and I'm an electronic design engineer and software developer. This talk is about a web service and browser extension that I've been working on, which is to make it easier to replicate electronics projects once their design is finished. So, I'd like to give some context for the motivation behind this, and I grabbed some statistics from various places to try and gauge the number of electronic engineers there are in the world and how that compares to software developers. So you can look at these statistics here and kind of guesstimate the amounts of people there are in the world working on electronic engineering versus software. And so, kind of in summary, there's about 1 EE to every 3 programmers, maybe. And then, when you think about it, there's maybe 1 in 10 software engineers know C. And if you compare the kind of forums on electronics versus C programming, if you just reduce the subset, you get quite favorable numbers for electronics, really. And the question really is, where's the Linux of electronics? And this is, a lot of people think about this. This is actually the logo from the Open Hardware repository from CERN. And I think it captures that idea quite well, why isn't this happening? And of course, it's not software, and there's a lot of labor and kind of physical movement and things that have to happen to make electronics happen. But there's a lot of automation as well. So this is a pick and place machine, which it's quite advanced automation, and board prices are going down. You can iterate as a design engineer. You can iterate quite quickly on a hardware project because it doesn't cost that much to get a board made anymore, and it's more accessible for everyone. And we do share projects. So I did a survey a while back, and there's about 3,000 KiCad projects on GitHub, about 7,000 Eagle projects. And Oshpark, which is a PCB batching service, they have a kind of little project sharing thing where you can download Gerbers for projects. There's about 9,000 projects on there. And then there's all Hackaday and EV blog forums and all these different ways of sharing projects. I think, and it's an interesting problem to look at, I think. And I think part of the problem is maybe that we have a heritage of doing very amazing things, but not making it so understandable for other people to replicate that. This is a picture from, oh shit, I didn't write down the reference. I think it's at the end. It's Bob P's, I can't remember the title of the book, but so my kind of approach to this was, we want to have all these different ways of doing things, like the KiCad and all the different ways of sharing things and all the different ways of making PCBs, and kind of munge it all up. And at the end of it, what do you really want? You want the PCB, and you want the parts to make the PCB. So my approach to this is the Kitnic.it website, which is a project sharing website, and the one-click bill of materials browser extension, which works in your browser to replicate web requests to try and automatically put things into retailer shopping carts. So this is the one-click BOM browser extension that was first presented at FOSDEM actually in 2015, and it's still there, still works. It automates purchasing by replicating the web requests that are sent to use retailer sites. So it currently works for DigiKey, Mauser, RS, Newark, Farnell, and Element 14. And you might ask, why does this need to be a browser extension? Can't you just make a website that automatically puts things into carts? Well, not really. And there's some exceptions to this, but basically the retailer website would have to allow pretty much your specific website or you to do this. So this is a quote from the same origin policy is what is implemented in browsers, basically to prevent one site from messing with your data on another site. And there's a good little comic about that, but I'm not sure So now is a good time for everyone to read it. I'm not sure why I put that in there, but I'm going to skip ahead. So this, you can look up the slides and look at the comic. It's cute. This is the kind of request you have to send. So what is this? The Mauser site to add something to your cart. And there's quite a lot of stuff in there that maybe you don't strictly need, but the crucial thing actually is this view state element, which goes on for thousands and thousands of bytes for some reason, and you need to send that to modify the user's cart. So in the way I kind of handle this complexity of all these different retailers, all the different countries, and these kinds of lengthy requests, is I use a lot of testing and make sure that it works across all the different sites and all the different countries, but with using this integration testing. So this one's a test for Farnell, and it checks for each country that it can add some parts to the cart, checks the cart, and you can empty it. And if there's a failure, if there's something fails, it'll notice, and also but it won't often the way the retailer sites work is that if something fails, it'll be in your cart for you to see, but really if you want the extension to work, you should be able to clear that out again and try the next operation. So this is what the extension looks like, and it's kind of meant to be used in conjunction with the spreadsheet on one side, and you can copy from the spreadsheet into the extension and copy out of the extension back into the spreadsheet. So there are 5 retailers that are currently supported, and you can add to the cart and empty the cart. So this is available for Chrome and Firefox currently. It works on tab separator values, which is the clipboard format for spreadsheets. You can also load an online BOM. So if you share a bill of materials on GitHub or somewhere in the right format, you can just load it directly into the extension. I've been working on features where it can try and complete, like if you give it a description for a part, it will try and find the right part for you. There'll be more on that later. It's open source, CPL license, and it has about 500 users. So back to this kind of weird analogy here. We have a way of replicating purchases from one person to the other, and you can do that across the globe. But it doesn't include the PCB necessarily, and there's no neat way to package everything together. So this is kind of what the Kitnic website is for. And the way that works is you put everything into a Git repository. You use the format that the extension understands and the website understands as well, which is the one-click BOM tab separated values. You need at least references, quantity, and a part number to kind of that's like the minimum that you should be able to specify about your project. And we use R274X Gerbers and Epsilon drills. And so this is kind of the minimum file tree that you would have. You'd have the TSV and the Gerber files. So we're going to try and do a live preview of the website. Oh, right, yeah. Here we go. Oh. One second. So that's the front page. And there's a, where's my scroll bar? I'm sure that's not the website's fault. How do I scroll on this, Javier?
Maybe 2 fingers on the down?
Nope. On page down will always work, right? Here we go. Okay. So these are some projects that are on there already. We can maybe select one. So it's a small FM transmitter kind of demo project. So it's got a nice rendering of the Gerber files, and it's got a link here to get Gerbers. there's links here, okay, short descriptions and a website link for more info, and the repository link. And here is kind of the magic where you need the browser extension. Except in some instances, I've actually found that DigiKey has enabled cause requests to add parts completely, and UARC and Farnell as well, except the extension kind of works better because there's less friction in doing so. You won't be prompted for decisions. For UARC, you might be prompted to make a decision on whether you want to buy more parts for less money, which you don't really want to be prompted for that. So it's even still less friction with UARC if you install the extension, and with DigiKey if you install the extension. And in UARC and Farnell, the way the extension works, it adds all the references as line notes to your shopping cart, so that when you get the parts, you will normally have in the the printed details there what parts are what already. So it's kind of, the idea really is to have a kit transfer without the creator necessarily having to put together a kit. They can transfer all the information you need to buy your own kit without them having to bag components and things. That's really the big idea. Should we try and buy something? Yeah. So this won't actually use the extension. So this prompts you, like I said. Do you want to buy more parts for less money? Yes, I would like to buy. Right. Here we go. And there's all the parts you need, and you can go and buy that. So what I added a few days ago. Oh, where are we? Here we are. I'm a bit confused. Sorry. Where am I? Right. So this is what I added a few days ago. Is because previously the way we handled submissions was you sent a pull request to the GitHub repo where the site is, where all the site source code is, and there's a boards.txt file where you add the line to your publicly accessible Git repository, and then if everything looks okay, then I'll add that to the main branch, the master branch, and the whole site is rebuilt with your project in it. So now I added this a few days ago, and you can try and, instead of just blindly going, does this work? Does this work? You can now get a kind of a better idea by doing a preview. So this is the kind of Arduino example project, and it renders the thing for you, and you can change the color. But there's still no accounts on the site or anything. So you still have to go, by the end of all of this, if you've checked everything, seems to be in the right place, and there's the README file and the links and things, then by the end of it, please send us a pull request. So there's still a lot of work to do there.
I think you can make a pull request with a single URL. Given that
oh yeah, that's a good idea.
You can construct a URL which will.
Yeah, that'll work, maybe. I've never seen that anywhere, so I'm not sure, but right. I'm not sure how to get back to my presentation now. All right. Ah, crap.
Both left key should be back.
No, I don't think my key went. Okay. Hey, right. Oh, this is my. Okay. So yeah, like I said, the idea is really this virtual kit. You don't have to lift a finger. You can transfer all the information you need through the website. The way it works. Oh, right. Yeah. The way it works, we use static site hosting for the minute. I use continuous integration to build the site, and to kind of preview. You've seen me messing about with these preview domains. That's actually a branch on there. So whenever I make a branch and I push it up to GitHub, it'll deploy it to my AWS server, so I can have a look at the site then, and I can show other people what's going on there. And like I already went over this. So there's a lot of planned features. Really, it would be nice to add accounts and have a kind of management feature and have file upload, not necessarily force electronic engineers to use Git. And really, I quite enjoy making tools that help make bills of materials. I'm going to skip over this because I'm running out of time. This would be a nice feature if you could, like, to help you build the kit. If you hover over somewhere, you can see where on the boards with. This is kind of a philosophy that I take when implementing this is like to build the minimum thing that could be useful, and then to add on top of that instead of trying to build the whole thing at once. Yeah, that's a good question. Like I said, there's already cause requests. There's some pros and cons. You can read up on that. Oh, that's supposed to be a nice thing, right? I guess the question for me as well is, how do I make this development sustainable? Really, so far there's a lot of expenses, and there's some potential to track referrals in the site and try and make money off that, and to support development, or the potential to add paid private accounts and have people pay a subscription to support, or maybe some other donation mechanism to support the development. Write some code. I don't think I have a lot of time for the code. Are there any questions at this point? Yeah?
Is it possible to have one click through to sales part, so you can get everyone to sell?
Yes, it would be possible, very much so. I'm going to continue, sorry. I shouldn't have. It's all JavaScript. Everything's JavaScript. I'm gonna come back to questions afterwards. Initially, if you look at the old presentation, it was CoffeeScript, and I've stopped using that to get advanced features, JavaScript features, because CoffeeScript was kind of getting in the way. We still compile JavaScript to JavaScript. Brilliant. So the Kitnic site uses React as the front end. It's kind of this view layer made by Facebook, where you define lots of different small modules. You're pretty much writing HTML. You're getting JavaScript to always generate HTML for you, instead of getting JavaScript to manipulate HTML for you. So it does one pass and it renders it, and that's your static site. And then it uses this React frontend to modify that. I started building out microservices and making use of microservices. So what you saw there, the preview thing, I made a project out of that. It's kind of a little service where you can put in a URL for a Git repository, and it will serve all the files to you. So I think I want to continue to split out little projects like this that could be generally useful and open source them. This is not my thing. I make use of this for geolocation, but that's another service that's running to support Kitnic. Like, I had a lot of things to say about JavaScript, which I probably won't have time for. But pretty much the gist of it is that there's a lot of bad things to say about JavaScript, but the ecosystem is pretty amazing right now. People make little tiny packages for everything. So there's even a package to left pad a string. That's one JavaScript package that you can include in your repository. And there was a bit of controversy around this, because the person that was in charge of this removed this from the repositories, and it broke a lot of important projects. So there's upsides and downsides to this. This is an amazing library that we make use of at Kitnic. It's written by Michael Cousins, and it renders Gerber files using JavaScript. It will work in the browser. It will work in on Node.js in the backend, and those are kind of the dependencies that it has. But Michael Cousins has written all of this. And one kind of neat thing that we've collaborated on is what's that Gerber, which kind of takes all these different ways of naming Gerber files and and tries to figure out what the stack up is and make the right rendering. Right, more code that I'd planned to show you. Where I made use of NPM packages to make this feature, which I will skip ahead to. And it's kind of combined with the CPL data from Octopart. So it is a thing, it does a quick lookup from your description. Yeah, I should probably. So you kind of give it the description, paste that in there, and press complete, and it figures out what parts you wanted just from the description. And this is especially good for kind of generic components. These are not actual windows, but and you can put that back into your spreadsheet or go and buy that with the extension. So I'd like to work more on things like that to make making bills of materials easier. Right now, this is a bit like a self-driving car with just one button. You've got no control. You can just say complete, and then you have to check over all the mess that it could potentially make. So, how am I on time?
It's 3 minutes ago, including questions.
3 minutes ago, I should have finished, including questions.
Including questions.
So I'm done. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Take questions now.
I want a couple for myself. I don't. Any questions?
Are there any plans to support versioning?
Yes. Yes. There's. I mean, not like concrete plans, but that seems like a great feature to have. Yeah.
Support uploading BOM files or passwords? Why not just simply generate a hard file for various distributors instead of relying on kind of reverse engineering their website?
So the question was, why not generate what file? Sorry.
Like the contents of the shopping cart.
Yeah.
There's card like import, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because it varies so much across retailers. So what I'd like is to have the same way to do it across all the different retailers, and always always the same steps. Yeah.
Is the file that you generate with LibreOffice also compatible if I use, for instance, OpenOffice or on another?
Yeah, it's actually the clipboard format, and it's just tab separated values, so it'll work with any spreadsheet.
What do you do when components have multiple alternatives?
Multiple?
Multiple alternatives with different prices.
Yeah, multiple vendor alternatives are currently not supported in the format. The only thing that is supported is multiple manufacturer part numbers on the bill of materials. So you can say all these parts are possible to be used here,
Well,
and then you have a selection for specific retailer.
For example, the capacitors. Capacitors, you have different manufacturers. You actually want a capacitor that fits a certain specification.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah, exactly that. So you can have multiple manufacturer part number in your bill of materials, and then you could have a selection of one of those for your retailer columns.
Last question.
The operations you do on the external websites or the atomic, so can you do like an entire batch of components in one go, or do you do it in separate requests?
They are not atomic, no. You pretty much, I've only tested this doing one retailer at a time, and the website won't currently let you do more, try and add more components while the other components are already being added. But you can have quite large bills of materials that you can all add at once.
Well, if you have a very complicated
Because these are all simple examples, but I can imagine like very complicated words would take a while before the entire shopping cart was built and making separate requests.
Well, it would be quicker if you all did it. If you did it as one request.
Yeah, it would be quicker, but I don't know. Wouldn't really trust it if there's like a whole bunch of requests going on.
Yeah, that's the trouble. Trying to validate it, making sure that it's correct.
Great. That's very good.
It's just one of the ones.